Hey y'all, I'm James Bentley. I'm super excited to announce our next speaker, my brother, Andrew Bentley. Speaking at Discovery has been something he's wanted to do since he first got here and first got to the youth floor in 6th grade. And since he's been such a role model for me, I'm super excited for y'all to hear what God's put on his heart to say today. So, y'all give it up for Andrew.
Hello? On? Alright. Like my brother James just said, my name is Andrew. I'm going to be a senior at Vestavia Hills High School this year. And yeah, so like he said, this is something I've always wanted to do since I was in 6th grade. But cool story. So y'all know how the theme is remix this year? Yeah, total remix for me. No way in 6th grade would I have thought I would be able to stand up here in front of 200 people like this and confidently give a talk, or just speak in general in front of all y'all. So that's a cool part about me, that God remixed in my life. So I knew I wanted to speak, but I didn't always know what I wanted to talk about. I've never really had like a great grand story that I wanted to share. Never really had like something crazy happen in my life where it's like, oh my gosh, I now want to follow Christ. It's always kind of been a part of my life. And so you come up here and you hear people's great testimonies. And I remember sitting in the chairs y'all are in now when I was younger and just hearing all these people's great stories. And I was like, I really want to speak, but what do I speak about? So I was talking to Jeremiah, and he was like, Andrew, you don't have to have a story. You just have to be able to want to teach people about God. And so even though I don't have a story, the character we've been learning about this week, Joseph, has a story that I want to share with y'all. So I'm going to be focusing on Genesis 41. And in Genesis 41, the Pharaoh of Egypt has these dreams. And one night, the Pharaoh has this dream that there's these 7 cows walking along the bank of the Nile River in Egypt. And these cows are fat and healthy, and they're ready to be eaten. And so they're walking along the bank, and then out of nowhere comes these 7 kind of thin and ugly and just sick cows. And then the thin cows, they end up eating the healthy cows. So Pharaoh wakes up, he's startled, he's shocked, he's afraid. He's like, oh my goodness, what was that about? He goes back to bed, and then later that night, he has another dream where there is 7 ears of corn, or 7 ears of wheat. And those ears of wheat are healthy, ready to be picked, and they're just kind of ready to be eaten. And then there's 7 ears of wheat that are kind of dying and sick, and then a wind blows over, and the healthy ones disappear. Pharaoh wakes up again. Now he's terrified. He's like, oh my goodness, what are these dreams about? So he calls over all these people from Egypt, the magicians, the wise men, to come interpret his dream. And no one there knows what's going on. So there's this cupbearer that I think John Harris mentioned about earlier. And the cupbearer was like, hey, I know this guy, but he's locked up in prison. So cupbearer goes to get Joseph, who's locked up in prison for the past 2 years, and brings him up to the Pharaoh, and Joseph is able to interpret the Pharaoh's dream for him. So Joseph has always kind of gotten the rough end of the stick in life. He's always kind of had really a tough beginning of life. After the fact that his brothers had sold him to slavery, he was thrown in a pit. The second things started looking up when he was working for Potiphar. He gets put in prison. So he's just kind of had the short end of the stick. But God, in this point, decides to remix his life. He remixes his life where he's now able to go and interpret the Pharaoh's dream, and explain to him. In Genesis 41, verse 28, it says, it is as I told Pharaoh, God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. After them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land. The plenty will no longer be known in the land because of the famine that will follow, for it will be very grievous. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will surely bring it about. Now therefore let Pharaoh select a man who is discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. So, Joseph goes in and he explains to Pharaoh that there's going to be 7 years of famine, or 7 years of great plenty. So 7 years, crop's going to grow great, there's going to be plenty of food, nothing to worry about. But after that, there's going to be 7 years of total drought, total famine, no food's going to grow, everyone's going to go hungry. So Joseph has these ups and downs in his life. I like to call them highs and lows, or mountains and valleys. So Joseph has been in all these valleys when he was in prison, when he got thrown in the pit, when his brothers tried to kill him, and then now he's on one of his mountains. He's on one of his highs. So that's just all part of God's plan. And so God has a plan for all of us. And I have a little story that I want to talk to you all about that. So I'm a leader out at Camp Winnetasca over the summer. And so one of the things that we do at night is we give devotionals to the kids. And so throughout the week, I give many different devotionals. I really like doing them. But every week I give the same one, no matter what. And it's always about God's plan for you. And I always use these two verses. And it's Isaiah 60:22. And it says, when the time is right, I, Lord, will make it happen. And John 13:7, it says, you don't understand now what I'm doing, but one day you will. So I think those two verses really go with what Joseph's story is about, because Joseph is here and he's been having all these valleys, and then all of a sudden he's now interpreting dreams for the Pharaoh and things are looking up for him. In Genesis 41, verse 37 through 41, it says, the proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find anyone else like this, one in whom is the Spirit of God? So Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I've set you over all the land of Egypt. So now Joseph is second in command in Egypt. Again, he's on one of his mountains. And so one night I had one of these kids, and he asked me, what if you don't really like what God has planned for you? So I'm 17, I'm not a pastor, but that question kind of shocked me. I was like, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night, it's Thursday, I haven't slept in forever. What do I say to this kid? At the time, I kind of was like, well, I guess God kind of figures everything else out in the end. But looking back on this, looking at Joseph's story, you can see how God is going to take you through low points and he's going to take you through high points. And that it's important to remain faithful through all of them. So even if you don't like what God's doing right now, at some point you're going to reach one of your mountains again, and it's going to be looking up for you. God's not going to put you through all these terrible things for no reason. He's going to put you through hard times so that you get stronger, so that when you're in your high moments, you can praise him more. Keeping faith through adversity is something that's super important. In my opinion, I think it's something that a lot of us probably struggle with. I know that I do. When things are going hard, it's super easy to turn your back to God. Kind of like what Hunter was talking about earlier, and I kind of relate to that. It's hard to, when things are going wrong, to just say, oh, let me not put this on myself and just put it to God. I think that's something that a lot of teenagers probably struggle with. But you never know what God has planned for you. And so if you're just kind of pushing it away from God, or you're not going to him with things, then he's not going to be able to do extraordinary things with you like he did with Joseph. God has given us all these unique gifts. Like Joseph's gift was that he could interpret dreams. And it took someone 2 years of him being in prison for him to remember, hey, we have this guy. And he went from being in prison to being second in command in Egypt. So, and the reason that Joseph was able to be noticed that the reason that Pharaoh noticed that Joseph can do these things is because God was with him. In verse 38 it said, Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find anyone else like this, one in whom is the Spirit of God? And God was with him through his lows and through his highs, and Joseph never kind of gave up and never pushed God off to the side. He remained faithful. I think that's a great thing that we need to learn how to do, is be with God through our low moments and our high moments. I'm going to read Romans 8:28, which I think is a verse that ties all this together. And Romans 8:28. Oh, okay. Romans 8:28 says, we know that all things work together for good, for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. So I read that verse and I think, okay, what does that mean? To me, that means that God is going to have these things in our life that are going to push us to Him and away from Him. And there's going to be times that we're being pushed away from Him because things are tough. But that's when we really need to go to God. But things are going to turn out better in the end when it says things work together for good. God's putting us through these things so that we can be better in the end. So if you're like me sometimes and you're sitting in the crowd and you're like, hey, this guy's been talking for a while, you haven't listened to anything I've said in the last 5 minutes, I want you to listen to this and I'm going to pray us out. God has a plan for you. He's going to use you in ways that you never thought possible, just as He did with Joseph. You're going to experience highs and lows in your faith journey, and that is okay. Continue to trust God, and things will turn out better than you've ever imagined. Y'all bow your heads and pray with me. Dear God, you are so, so good. God, I thank you so much that you brought these 200 middle and high schoolers out to Discovery this weekend to come and worship you and get to know you more. God, I pray that these kids, God, that they come and they are able to learn from Joseph's story and truly understand that you have a perfect plan for them, God, and that it's okay that things don't go well all the time. God, I pray that they learn to trust you in all of your ways. God, I pray all these things in your name. Amen.